I admired them every time I went to visit my grandma and granddad in Northampton. In the corner of their dining room was a glass cabinet filled with mugs of various shapes and sizes, eras and designs. But these weren't mugs to drink from. These were mugs which marked significant events in the life of our nation and our royal family. From coronation mugs to commemorative mugs from weddings and jubilees, these drinking vessels told a story of eras gone by. This week, I added a new mug to the collection, which I was fortunate to inherit. A mug depicting Paddington, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and her corgi walking off into the distance. My memories and a part of my history are wrapped up in those mugs. And as I have reflected on that, it's put some meaning into the tide of grief sweeping our nation at this time. The reality is, for most of us, our day-to-day reality will look no different following the death of our Queen. We will notice the gradual changes of the images on our coins, stamps and passports. But life will continue in many ways like it always has. And yet, somehow there is this sense that we have been cast adrift. A sense that what we could depend on, that what has shaped our history, has silently dissolved from under us. In all the significant events of our nation's life, both joyous and heartbreaking, we have seen the presence of our Queen. But in these days, I can't help but think that perhaps she would want us to find solace and strength, not so much in her life and legacy, but in the one she referred to as her anchor. In 2014, in her Christmas message, Her Majesty said this: "For me, the life of Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, whose birth we celebrate today, is an inspiration and an anchor in my life." If you go and stand outside Holyrood Church in Southampton, you will find the Queen's anchor. Well, sort of. Here, the huge anchor from the famous cruise liner, the QE2, was rehomed after it was gifted to Southampton City Council by Cunard. A boat is designed to travel through water, to move from one destination to another. But there are times when, whether you are on a mighty cruise ship or a humble kayak, that you need to be still. And this is when the anchor comes into its own. At the most basic level, the purpose of an anchor is to secure a vessel in place. It is there so that boats do not get carried away by winds and currents. It is there to keep a ship where it should be. For the Queen, Jesus was her anchor. I've never been a head of state, nor I imagine have you. But both the professional and personal storms that the Queen faced in her 96 years must have threatened to pull her away from her calling, her integrity, her faith. But yet all who speak of her today speak of her faithfulness, her constant presence, and her dutiful service. The tribute shared speak of someone who had no doubt about who she was called to be, and who called her to be her. I heard one news correspondent say this week that the magic of the Queen is that she was so unlike us, yet so like us. So of course it is not just royalty who needs an anchor. We all do. I think perhaps the pain of losing Her Majesty is partly due to the fact it has caused us all to look back on our lives, the joys and the heartaches. If you pause for a moment, memories will come to your mind of when you have felt like a sailing ship being battered and buffeted by the winds and the waves. All of us on this earth who are privileged to live beyond infancy face storms. All of us are pulled in this direction or that by family heartache, job worries, financial concerns, existential crises. Storms come with the territory of having breath in our lungs. Jesus never pretended otherwise. In John 16 verse 33 we read, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." You will have cried tears that no one knows about. You will have feared things that others just take in their stride. You will have felt your heart drop as you faced ground-shaking news. I'm sorry for the pain that you have felt. But Jesus feels it with you. The ground will have shook for you. Perhaps it is still shaking. But we can take heart, for the life, death, and resurrection of Christ means that love, hope, joy, and peace have overcome the world. I just love the verse from Hebrews 6 verse 19. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. Anchors keep us rooted. They keep us secure. The only thing in this world which is truly immovable, truly rooted, truly constant is Christ. He is the only thing which will still be there when everything else crumbles. Christ will still be love when our news screens return once more to images of war and devastation. Christ will still be peace when we receive a devastating diagnosis. Christ will still be joy when the dark nights draw in physically and emotionally. Christ will still be hope when we face heartbreaking bereavement. Christ will still be Christ when we breathe our final breath. For Christ will forever be Christ. There will be no processions for Jesus, no lying in state with his body in a coffin. There will be no funeral or period of mourning for Jesus, because he is alive, he is victorious, he is King. That was the truth that the Queen founded her life on. And that is the truth we are all invited to found our life on too. Anchors keep us rooted. Anchors keep us secure. But anchors are most valuable in a storm. There are many inspirational women in our world. And of course, today we celebrate one of them. But another incredibly inspirational woman was Corrie ten Boom. Alongside her father and sister, Corrie helped Jewish people escape the Nazis during the Holocaust by hiding them in her home. Corrie and her sister Betsy were arrested and sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp. Betsy died at the age of 59. Corrie was released 12 days later due to a clerical error and went on to live to the age of 91. Corrie said this: "In order to realise the worth of the anchor, we need to feel the stress of the storm." What greater storm can there be than being incarcerated in a Nazi concentration camp? Yet despite this horror, Corrie could still testify to an anchor which held her fast. There may have been moments when Corrie's faith in humanity and God were buffeted, but still, her life was anchored in Christ. And so today, I was keen to dedicate this message to reflecting on the life of our late Queen, not simply because of her importance in the world, or even her dedicated service to our country, but because as a servant of God, I believe we have much to learn from her. For Her Majesty, God was not a distant entity, simply part of the formalities of the monarchy. It was her connection to God which meant she never lost hope. In her 2002 Christmas message, she said this: "I know just how much I rely on my own faith to guide me through the good times and the bad." All good sailors know the importance of the anchor to keep a boat secure. But it's not simply the anchor that holds the ship in place. It's also the heavy chain that attaches the anchor to the ship that makes the difference. Apparently, you need 5 to 10 times as much chain as the depth of water. The deeper the water, the more chain you'd better have, because the anchor won't hold if you don't have enough chain. God is wonderful, incredible, unchangeable, immovable, but we need to be connected to Him to be held secure. An anchor is no use to a ship if it is unconnected. For us to know the power of Christ as our anchor, we need to be connected. Every day we need to strengthen our relationship with Him and bring ourselves back to His will for our lives. I heard it said this week that Jesus was the inner scaffolding on which the Queen built her whole life. What about you? What are you building your life on? I love the Voice translation of Hebrews 6 verse 19. That hope is real and true, an anchor to steady our restless souls. Does your soul feel restless today? Perhaps national events are shaking you, or personal concerns are troubling you. We have an anchor in Christ who never fails and never lets us go. He is the one whom we can connect with, and through Him come to say, "It is well with my soul." Even in the midst of the storms, the winds, the waves. So today, as we mourn the loss and celebrate the life of our faithful Queen, perhaps these words of Bishop Michael Curry resonate with you. Thank God that one named Elizabeth walked among us. But she would have wanted us to look beyond her, to trust in someone greater than her. She would want us to find hope and security in the one whom was her anchor and inspiration. I leave with you words not actually from Elizabeth, but from Queen Victoria, but words which I am sure would resonate with our servant Queen. The Queen exclaimed, "How I wish that the Lord would come in my lifetime." "Why?" asked the chaplain. The Queen replied with quivering lips, and her whole countenance lighted up by deep emotion. "I should so love to lay my crown at his feet." And so today, as God's good and faithful servant, Queen Elizabeth II lays her crown at the feet of Jesus, may we also kneel before our God and worship Christ and Christ alone. God bless you.